From 15 to 19, I was into the grime scene. And one thing I loved was an intricate rhyme scheme. So Vybz Kartel blew my mind. He always made me want to redo my rhymes. But the artist, real name Adidja Palmer, was also one of Jamaica's most divisive rappers. Now after serving 13 years of a murder conviction, he's finally home. And here's why this matters. Because of discrepancies in the case, people claim he fell victim to a system that held a personal grudge. But at the same time, Vybz Kartel portrayed himself as a madman with a thirst for blood. This gangster image was solidified in one of the biggest clashes Jamaica's ever seen. Kartel versus Mavado. This dominated my life at the age of 17. So let's take a trip down memory lane and look back on a time that we'll never regain. The years leading up to Kartel's conviction and how the whole island's energy changed.
Cartel, which means a group of people come together to limit and control both the prices and the competition. So we's the cartel in the music, I will come for control. Delhi ghetto whiskey.
Youngsters for life.
Mavado!
Gunplay.
Who more to cassava people?
Kartel and Mavado came in the game as brethren. True, they shared a mentor, a Jamaican legend, Bounty Killer. And when Vybz fell out with Bounty, neither had any problem defending themselves in a war of words, but Mavado was loyal to Bounty, so he stepped in to help. And in Kartel's mind, this kid was getting kind of ahead of himself. From that point, one of the most epic feuds in dancehall history kicked off. To me, it was more entertaining than anything happening in grime and hip-hop. Across the underworld, there was a big divide. Every dancehall fan picked a side. Vado was Gully, Kartel was Gaza. Think it's just music. You wouldn't believe the drama between Cassava Pieces' David Brooks and Portmore's Adidja Palmer.
The government is defending its decision to intervene in the dancehall rivalry between DJs Mavado and Vybz Kartel, whose open contempt for each other has divided their fans in what is known as a Gaza-Gully conflict. Jamaica House says it was a matter of responsibility to intervene in the conflict, which has such wide-reaching tentacles.
Bounty Killer had his own recent drama. People said his rival Beanie Man thieved his partner. For years they'd been having lyrical war, but that animosity never took physical form. Now for the first time, people's attention shifted. Mavado and Kartel, both of them were gifted. Bardo was given spiritual gangster, and Vybz Kartel the prince of lyrical banter. But this music was driven by visceral anger. Bullets were flying, people were dying. The Jamaican government stepped in, said enough of this death thing, called a press conference where the two of them embraced each other as brethren.
Me and Vybz, we're not really enemies, you know what I mean? It's just about music. People take it to a different level.
Yeah man, we agree with what Mavado said a while ago, and as a matter of fact, we have plans to do another collaboration. We're coming back with
But the truce didn't last. Soon they were back at it. For both of them, clashing had become a bad habit. Kartel dissed Mavado's slain father. DJs in the Gully were banned from playing Gaza. Ironically, this made the game larger. Artistically, it made me train harder. Every other week, there were 2 new songs and a worldwide debate. Who came harder? Finally, they took it to the stage at a legendary annual event called Sting. This was a monumental thing, because the crowd at Sting would crown the king. So in front of thousands of fans and critics, they jumped around and shouted their gangster lyrics. Then out of nowhere, Mavado leaves the stage. No one knows why, but he seems enraged. To this day, it remains a mystery. And Vybz Kartel wasted no time claiming victory.
You win.
So what happened next? Well, after Sting, Mavado and Kartel pretty much controlled the mood on the ground, but visa problems stopped them both from moving around. Without shows, it would be hard to get paid, so the violence in the music started to fade.
But hope and pray, that shine him like my way. Hope and pray, send me out.
Mavado sang about better living and money. This is how he shaped his definition of Gully. More happiness, less clashing and hollering. He grew his female fan base and international following. To be fair, Mavado sang about a lot of things, and you know, he could proper sing. Meanwhile, Kartel changed too. But in many ways, he was still the same youth. He toned down the violence-ish, wanted to fly, but he was denied this wish. Still, he was the master of coordinating energy, and his music started incorporating melody.
Squaddy me not stop on my ganja, so come put on the handcuff them. Remember me must get bail, carry me to jail, and in the day I get sail. You know me with the ganja, a gun you feel look for, no harass the Gaza.
Despite government pressure, Vybz Kartel stayed as rugged as ever. Fans worldwide were loving the brother. He was like a supervillain with a paper and pencil. Sometimes he dropped 2 different songs in one go on the same instrumental, like this.
Hey, yeah, me no wanna boring fuck. Dancehall is going through a happy phase. You know you always have time in the music when clashing are go on because you can't get rid of that, you know what I mean? No, me no wanna boring wine. Me don't wanna boring wine, baby.
Vado and Vybz released so many songs, but love from the fans wasn't the only response. Yeah, they were 2 of dancehall's largest artists, but not everybody was their target market. As dancehall became more violent and sexual, a lot of Jamaicans felt misrepresented. The sound grew globally, got a lot of criticism locally, and this never ended.
I am confident that there is a link between dancehall music and violent crime.
The reason why it is so promoted in Jamaica is because it is a way to keep black people in a very low state of mind with very low ambition.
For years, people put up with dancehall culture, but this new generation was far more vulgar. Critics said dancehall was full of self-destructive messages and silly behaviors. Resentment slowly spread beyond the island over to Jamaica's Caribbean neighbors.
Trinidad and Tobago, St. Vincent, Barbados, the Grenadines and the Bahamas have all banned controversial dancehall artist Mavado for his
state-owned radio station in Guyana has banned Vybz Kartel from the airwaves, saying his music brings nothing positive.
As a matter of fact, campaigners tried to clean up dancehall with the Reggae Compassionate Act. Activists applied a lot of pressure, but Mavado and Vybz said there's no way I'm signing whatsoever. The artist complained about freedom of speech, and critics said, no, you're supposed to know the limits. Freedom of speech doesn't mean you can breach people's safety with gun talk and homophobic lyrics. And this is the problem with markets. Any society run entirely by profits is heartless. The market doesn't care about human beings or the difficult positions it puts you and me in, because in a market society, there's no higher command than the laws of supply and demand. So how do you regulate a popular artist who's topping the charts with socially irresponsible art, who never claimed to be right or wrong from the start, whose only way out of poverty was to write raw songs from the heart? In Feb 2009, Jamaica's Broadcasting Commission gave in to public outcry. They banned TVs and radio stations from playing songs with certain subjects outright. Still, This is a story about gangsters. Both Mavado and Vybz Kartel had hundreds of lyrics about killing police. There's no record of them actually doing it, but this mentality was big in the streets.
Me murder people in a broad daylight.
Now, as far back as the 70s, Jamaica had been a drug hotspot, allegedly. Yeah, that changed things entirely. Paved the way for kingpins in Jamaican society. They were linked to hella politicians, which is why enough of them have never gone to prison. So in 2009, when the US implied the Jamaican government was kinda responsible for protecting shotters and hiding them from the law, the writing was on the wall. Next year, Jamaica agreed to extradite the highest one of them all, Christopher Dudas Coke. He put up a fight and nothing small. State of emergency. The violence was like a war. Dudas was a well-loved community figure, and the whole situation was a national embarrassment. So fresh resentment added extra tension between the law and the man them in the garrison.
Shot on a bleach with cream. We bleach with M16. With extra magazine. Me alone create my crime scene.
The year after that, an off-duty cop killed Mavado's friend outside the club. Mavado got an assault charge while the killer got no charge. And even though he was used to this kind of stuff, he was stressing. He wanted to leave Jamaica. Felt like his time was up. Meanwhile, Vybz Kartel... Vybz Kartel. Like Mavado, he ended up in a predicament. The government was sick of him. There was only one way this was bound to go. Police kept shutting down his shows. He couldn't travel, so he commercialized his influence and used his popularity to shove it down their throats. And then one day something strange happened. On September 30th, 2011, Vybz was arrested for marijuana possession. 3 days later, he was charged for a burner and for taking part in a murder. They said back in July he helped to plan the shooting of a man called Barrington Bosie Burton. Because of a lack of witnesses and evidence, the jury couldn't know for certain. During trial, he was charged for a second murder, this time of an affiliate, Clive Lizard Williams. Kartel and his co-defendants denied involvement and maintained their innocence. He beat the first case, but he lost the second. According to the prosecution, Lizard was beaten to death at Kartel's home because he lost some weapons. When Vybz was first charged with murder, he was 35 years old, you know? And when he was finally sentenced, he got 35 years, no parole. And ever since the day they imprisoned him, Kartel's maintained his innocence. He kept releasing music behind bars and grew into a mythical figure as time passed. No one knew 13 years would pass, but outside the prison doors he appears at last. The moral of the story is... what exactly? Trying to work it out myself. Kartel's come home to worldwide love, but there's still legitimate concern about his health. He's still lost 112,000 hours. Guess it's a lesson in words, sounds, and powers. And still, the deceased rest in peace. We pray for the best for the West Indies. Hope you had as much fun watching this video as I had making this. Feel free to like and subscribe, comment your favorite bits, and sign up to the mailing list.